A dire forecast today about the future of the United States Postal Service. It's more than $9 billion in the red and is now proposing cutting Saturday mail delivery and closing more than 3,000 local post offices. Outside a hearing on Capitol Hill today, Democratic Senator Tom Coburn of Delaware told CNN things could get even worse.
If we do nothing by the end of this year, the Postal Service could default. If we do nothing by this time next year, the Postal Service could be gone as we know it.
Republican Senator Tom Coburn of Oklahoma was also at today's hearing on the future of the Postal Service. You just heard your colleague there, Senator, saying by this time next year, the Postal Service as we know it could be gone. What needs to be done, and does what need to be done include some form of taxpayer assistance, taxpayer bailout?
No, look, the business model that the post office is run on is failed because technology has outstripped first-class mail. And I've been working on this subject for 12 years, and we continue to have estimates that are erroneous. The fact is the vast majority of first-class mail is going to go away, and we need to have a business model that adjusts for that. Senator Carper's right. If we don't do anything, and if we don't change the flexibility that the management needs at the post office, if we don't let them run it to meet what the market says is out there in terms of delivering of goods to homes, then they're not going to be able to. There's two or three critical problems that haven't been addressed by Congress that are going to have to be addressed if you want to continue to have a postal service that has a monopoly mandate and delivers high quality with a great bunch of people.
There will be some people who say, get the government out of this. Let the private sector take care of it. Is that the right approach?
Well, the private sector won't take care of actually delivering to every address in the country, and that's the problem. Is you have to give them the monopoly, and they have the capability to do it, but we have the Congress, through our laws, have hamstrung the Postal Service to where they can't change to meet their business model, and that's what has to happen. You know, just a couple of things. One is when they negotiate a contract with the labor unions, they can't consider their financial or fiscal impact on the health of the post office. Well, nobody's ever going to be successful if any of the labor contracts don't consider the financial health of the organization for which you're going to pay them to work. So that's number one. Number two is you got to give them the flexibility to be able to offer and negotiate benefits that are realistic and competitive in the world. The benefit cost per year per postal employee and salary is about $84,000. Well, that's pretty significant across the country. So what we need to do is have the real demands for the labor and the real price that the market can afford, meet on that and let it really be negotiated rather than the Congress stepping in the way and say, here's the parameters, not real economic parameters under which we'll negotiate. I think that they're realizing that they have big problems, and I think we've got a good Postmaster General that wants to address those, but, you know, there's all sorts of people who have vested interests in the status quo, like Saturday delivery or a post office or someplace. You know, in my hometown, we have 2 post offices and drugstores. It's working well. We don't have to have all the post offices that we have.
And go ahead. Forgive me. So you agree with the Postmaster General that when he says 5-day delivery, close somewhere in the ballpark of 3,700 post offices and shed about 120,000 jobs. Is that a good start from your perspective?
Well, I think that's one of the starts. The other thing I would do is give him the capability to truly negotiate his labor contracts based on what the financial health of the post office is. Do you know any other organization that negotiates labor contracts and not look at their balance sheet or their income statement? I mean, that's ridiculous, and that's not to say certain postal employees shouldn't be being paid what they are or more. But the fact is, give them the freedom to run it. So we're going to have to, otherwise what you're going to have is a subsidized postal service. We're going to be back where we were, and we're going to, as taxpayers, you're not going to pay it in a stamp, you're going to pay it through additional taxes, and we can't afford that, John. We have so many other areas where we're stealing robbing Peter to pay Paul right now. We just can't do that again. So the post office is going to have to stand on its own. We need to give them the flexibility to do that. And with that will come some change in service, but not necessarily a diminution in service.
And as you come up with these changes, one of the realities is you're doing it at a tough time for federal spending and at a very, very tough time in the employment sector. The post office happens to be an entity that has a very significant portion of African American and minority employment. It has a huge percentage of especially disabled veterans employees. Yeah. When you're cutting all these jobs, do you have to do anything special to take care of those populations?
Well, first of all, I don't know the numbers. The total is about 225,000 more. They've saved 125,000 through attrition thus far. I'm sure that we could protect those. You know, this is over a time period, but we need to give them the authority to do whatever they need to do, and I don't have any problem giving preference to those people who have served our country. And you know, we have a great Postal Service group of employees, but we just have too many of them, and for the volume of mail that we have. And realistically, you're either going to subsidize them to not work. You know, another problem the Postal Service has is work rules, getting greater flexibility so you can utilize people more efficiently and effectively. I mean, it's just time for common sense. None of it's partisan. None of it's about not taking care of groups and not being attentive to the needs of people. It's the realistic aspect is, first of all, the federal government doesn't have any money to subsidize the post office anymore. And number two is we can't run any federal government agency of any type in any other than a common sense fashion.
But as you know, a lot of people harshly criticize the Postal Service management. You seem to be saying the management, maybe it has some problems, but the bigger problem is that the Congress and other entities of the government have essentially put mandates on them, told them you must do these things in these ways.
Yeah, and we've actually handcuffed them to where they can't respond to the changing market. Look, one of the big problems with the post office is they way overestimated what the revenues were going to be. This $8.5 billion 2 years ago, they weren't going to lose any money this year because they thought they were going to have first-class mail. Every time they've given me an estimate, they've been wrong. If we would quit handcuffing them and have management actually be real, be conservative in their estimates, not